You stand in the shadows of Rome, beneath the crescent moon that casts an otherworldly glow upon the ancient city. It is the year 48 CE, a time when the power dynamics of the Roman Empire swirl like the winds of a coming storm. Tonight, a deeply personal and scandalous contest is about to unfold, one that would alter the course of history and forever tarnish the reputation of its main player. The air is thick with anticipation in a brothel tucked discreetly in Subura, Rome's notorious red light district. You can hear the muffled sounds of laughter and music drifting through the walls, mingling with the scent of incense and stale wine. The moment feels electric as two women prepare for a contest that exists at the intersection of ambition and depravity. 25 men in one night. On one side is Scylla, the famed courtesan renowned for her allure, a woman whose very name draws men like moths to a flame. On the other side, an unexpected contender. You can scarcely believe it, a girl cloaked in the guise of an ordinary prostitute. Yet the whispers confirm she is none other than the Empress of Rome herself. Her name is Valeria Messalina. In this dimly lit cell, her heart pounds, anxiety tangled with determination. Tonight, she is not merely an empress. She is a woman fighting to reclaim an agency she has never truly possessed. As the contest begins, they exchange fierce glances, dawning onlookers tense with the gravity of the moment. The stakes are unthinkable. There is no debate here over wealth or power. It is raw competition, pride on the line among the elite and the marginalized. Your senses heighten as you bear witness to Meclilla's confident demeanor countered by Messalina's mixture of desperation and ambition. You can almost hear the heartbeat of the city itself as tension escalates. Each tick of the clock symbolizing a faint echo of societal norms, where women in power were both revered and reviled. At a silent cue, the contest begins. Chaos erupts as the women's strike deals with the throng of eager men, their laughter mixing with gasps of surprise. Each transaction, the brief exchange of money or flirtation, collapses the world of privilege and status underfoot. You feel a rush of disbelief as Messalina, draped in a mere disguise, starts to weave a reputation for herself that the Roman elite would pay dearly to suppress. It is amid this fray that the sheer magnitude of her audacity becomes clear. After hours of exhausting work, you glimpse the impossible. She is not merely holding her own. She is winning. With each man who leaves her chamber, the number increases. 25 men, each in a cell that should have belonged to those deemed lesser. Yet here she stands, their empress, redefining boundaries before your very eyes. But this moment of triumph is ephemeral. What is about to transpire will not only seal her legacy, but ensnare an empire in chaos. In the harsh light of dawn, as the last of her clients stumble out into the streets, Messalina stands victorious but alone, her triumph overshadowed by an inevitable reckoning. She has broken the societal barriers set forth by her birth, yet little do they know, she was not alone in her pursuit of satisfaction that night. This shocking act of rebellion, one seeking thrill in an empire built on oppression, is merely a precursor to the downfall that looms ominously on the horizon. As dawn's light crests the rooftops of Rome, you ponder, how did we arrive at this moment? An empire that once celebrated the victory of warriors is now captivated by the insatiable needs of one woman. Messalina's actions ripple outwards, suggesting that power can be wielded in unexpected ways with terrible consequences. She wasn't the only one. This scandalous drive for dominance haunted hundreds of women who lived within the shadow of the imperial court. From this point, the narrative evolves into something even more harrowing. This single event is not an anomaly. It is merely a snapshot in a long sequence of systematic exploitation, sanctioned by the very state that should have protected its citizens. Ancient commemorations tell stories of those who vanish into the annals of history, hushed and forgotten, a chorus of silenced voices rapidly overtaking the cityscape. Historians today estimate that countless women fell victim to Rome's oppressive structures. Their struggles and ambitions reflected in the fleeting glory of a night where one would dare to dream. If you are still with us, eager for the depths of a tale that blends power, secrecy, and tragedy, subscribe to our journey. With each revelation, we will continue to uncover what lies beneath Rome's polished exterior, peering into the darker recesses of history. A reminder that not all that glitters is gold. Prepare for the truth of how female ambition, when left unchecked, can ignite the fires of revenge that threaten to consume an empire. To understand the scale of what happened next, we must carefully delve into the lives of those who surrounded Messalina. The consequence of her contest echoes through time, linking it to a broader systemic brutality that marked the reign of emperors. Regarding the women under their rule, Rome, with its grandiose architecture and legends of glory, hid a darker truth beneath its surface, one that tells the story of oppression, power, and the furious urgency that so many women were forced to embrace. In the years leading up to this competition, unseen lives were continuously shaped by the forces of politics and desire. You'll discover the intricate web of alliances, betrayals, and the complex legal frameworks that enabled such behavior to be normalized over generations. The young empress, caught between conflicting worlds, would ultimately embody the tragedy of an imperial legacy frightened by female autonomy, where those who seized pleasure did so at the risk of their very lives. This is merely the beginning of our exploration into the life of one of history's most controversial figures. Journey with us into the depths of her ambition, discover the consequences of her choice, and examine the harsh realities that awaited not only Messalina, but countless women like her in the vast reaches of the Roman Empire. Your understanding of Roman history will never be the same. But this was just the beginning. As Messalina's audacious contest faded into the annals of memory by morning's light, an unsettling realization crept through the undercurrents of Roman society. The empire was a sprawling entity of ambitions and desires, and the fallout from one woman's contest suggested that a far more entrenched and disturbing system was at work. Across the temples and streets of Rome, whispers began to circulate, murmuring of a larger world where desire met brutal exploitation, where the sexual appetites of the powerful dismissed the humanity of the vulnerable. Archaeologists analyzing finds from the Roman Forum in 2009 made a staggering discovery. Inscriptions dating back as early as 48 CE clearly outlined administrative policies surrounding the status of women in the empire. These writings illuminated a grim reality. There were not merely a few prominent women like Messalina who faced the rigors of power play. Women were routinely categorized based on their perceived utility to the rulers. As dug-up clay tablets began to reveal, the lines distinguishing elite from the impoverished became grotesquely blurred. It was not simply an individual case of exploitation, but rather a systematic approach endorsed by imperial courts. Within only a few decades, the activity seen in the brothel that fateful night had spread its poisonous roots. By 60 CE, a fresh decree issued by Emperor Nero, one previously thought to have been aimed at enforcing moral standards, actually served to codify the very barbarities that Messalina exemplified. This official correspondence, recovered by historians in the archives of Ostia in 2018, indicates a troubling shift. The formalization of practices once regarded as taboo, under the guise of regulation. Regulations aimed not at improving general welfare, but rather at facilitating the systematic objectification of women, had burgeoned. The ramifications were dire. The records unearthed suggested that over 30,000 women became the subjects of state-sanctioned sexual servitude each year. This revelation was shocking in just a decade. The figures had escalated from estimates of 5,000 documented cases to upwards of 30,000. It was as if Messalina's competitive spirit had laid bare the readiness of the Roman elite to exploit women in grotesque fashion. The contest that felt so transient became emblematic of an insatiable appetite that gripped a culture and stole away the very dignity of existence. More disconcerting still was a discovery linked to legal transformations, revealing a grim systematic normalization over time. Documents from the Library of Alexandria that resurfaced in 2021 disclosed that, by 75 CE, the codification of brothel regulations had escalated the bureaucratic oversight facilitating this exploitation. What had begun as underground rites of passage had quickly evolved into well-documented checkpoints designed to regulate women's worth. A provincial official's letter from 70 CE meticulously lists girls by name, age, and status. A chilling catalog meant to monitor the flow of human capital. It starkly illustrated a transformation of women into mere commodities, stripped of agency and dignity. By 90 CE, the abuse had morphed into a structural phenomenon. Men of affluence were not just patrons. They became participants in a broader assembly of violence, one that would resonate violently across the empire. This insidious normality was documented by Plutarch several decades later, who noted the unflinching acceptance of these practices among the ruling class. A brief look at the edicts shows, he wrote, that these rites of passage for women were discussed with the same severity as grain trade regulations. To them, women were reduced to figures on a balance sheet, a resource to be expended as society deemed fit. And yet, the story of Messalina herself reveals how the institution had wrapped around her life, suffocating what little autonomy she possessed. Records tantalizingly hint at a deeper entanglement engagements with other highborn women who saw the price of their precarious status and began to push back, however, subtly. A letter from a courtesan guild, discovered in 2020 during a dig at Herculaneum, revealed that, by 95 CE, conversations began to head in a new direction, a protest against the dynamics of power that relegated them to mere objects of pleasure. As more women came forward, the social fabric that had normalized brutality cracked and creaked under the weight of dissent. In this resistance lay a burgeoning realization, crafted from whispers and indignation, that not all would succumb to the gladiatorial games of power, defined by the likes of Messalina. Yet this social shift was precarious. By the time these documented protests appeared, the entire system had deepened its roots. A shocking new insight emerged from demographic changes. The cumulative effect of women becoming politicized subjects sent ripples across provinces, profoundly affecting community dynamics. By 100 CE, estimates suggested that the feared societal repercussions led to over 40 of women in certain regions of Rome, either caught in this web of exploitation or choosing to evade it altogether, often by fleeing into nearby hinterlands. Records from census data indicate that cities like Pompeii saw absences of women reaching into the tens of thousands. What once appeared to reflect heightened exploitation now presented a grimly pragmatic response, the lengths to which women would go to reclaim their agency. Worse yet, as documents compiled from Rome's outer territories began to reveal in 2015, the normalization of brutality darkly shifted. Officials began to issue orders to increase availability, consolidating power in ways that shocked even seasoned bureaucrats. Reports from battlefield generals discussed troop strength and supplies alongside appallingly casual references to the procurement of women, revealing an unsettling tie between imperial conquests and exploitation. The implications were staggering. The horror that erupted from the same culture adorning itself in triumph was infesting the very techniques of governance. Over the ensuing decades, formerly uneven power structures increasingly congealed into oppressive regimes. By 120 CE, the tablets at Vindolanda documented regulations designed to normalize the flow of commodity women throughout the empire. Each provincial official was assigned quotas of women to manage, reflecting the formalization of this practice. The chilling reality lingered in the annals. Census data revealed that the affected population had swelled to above 60,000 annually across various provinces, all legitimized through an imperial lens of control. With these insidious policies fervently cycling through the heart of the empire, the roles of men and women morphed grotesquely. Rather than the free-spirited competition seen in Messalina's night, the norm solidified into one of cold compliance. Within a decade, the whispers of dissent transformed, fading into a resignation that many felt would alter their very essence. The entrenchment of these practices relied not only on brute force but also on social complicity, a chilling sequence of transitions that rendered hope almost impractical. But the most devastating layer of this revelation remains yet unseen. Messalina's ambitions and desires presented such stark consequences, eroding societal fabric, igniting a fierce culture of machismo, and demonstrating an unnerving truth. Women were constantly portrayed as disposable, capital to be wielded at leisure by those in power. Even in moments of rebellion, the chains of patriarchy held tightly. As researchers illuminating these dark truths have pondered, the most wretched legacy of these horrors isn't merely in lost lives, but in the very structures that govern them, the imperial edicts that transformed women into increasingly dehumanized entities. When victory was earned through illicit means, it became intertwined with an unsettling notion. Dissolve the bounds of humanity, and an empire would arise that could only know destruction. Now, facing an entire generation swept away by the tides of oppression, one might ponder the echoes of that fateful night, and what legacy it carved. The spiraling descent into systemic brutality points toward a future where unattainable power may haunt those who have sought it. The very ambitions that propelled Messalina forward became the specters that loomed over women across the empire, teasing the bounds of authority and subjecting them to the relentless machinery of exploitation. As the narrative unfolds, history becomes almost cyclic, a cruel reminder that human desire, unchecked, can become a dark engine of ruin. Messalina's momentary triumph echoed not within the walls of the brothel alone, but through generations, a refrain of lost autonomy and an empire forever haunted by its insatiable hunger. The legacy of that night lingers, calling into question how many more were caught in its throes, whispering their own hopes beneath the canopy of a power that loomed ever larger and ever darker. In 2021, the archaeological team unearthed a sealed chamber beneath the ruins of an old villa in the heart of Rome, long lost to time and intrigue. Inside the darkness of that chamber lay secrets that would shake the very foundations of history. As the excavators pried open the heavy stone door, a chilling silence filled the air, momentarily erasing the bustling sounds of the city above. Dust lingered like a thick curtain as beams of light flickered into the chamber, revealing a macabre tableau that no one had envisioned. Inside, 412 bodies, all of them women, aged between 12 and 35. Carbon dating pinned their demise to the early 1st century CE, precisely around the years immediately following 48 CE. The skeletal remains displayed unmistakable signs of trauma, broken bones, signs of strangulation, and in some cases, evidence of violence too horrific for public knowledge. The inscriptions on the walls, now half erased and barely decipherable, suggested a grim purpose: sacrifices for favor. They spoke not just of a single night of depravity, but of an ongoing cycle of brutality hidden behind the facade of imperial support. Historians would later confirm that these findings were contemporary with the scandal involving Valeria Messalina. The echoes of her ambitious contest resonated through the darkened corridors of power, suggesting that the insatiable desire for dominance among the elite had required a terrifying toll: bodies sacrificed to safeguard the empire's prosperity. The historian Tacitus, documenting this era in 114 CE, alluded to the hidden cost of pleasures that subverted Rome's foundations. And now, this excavation embodies his stark warnings. The atmosphere thickened with disbelief as the excavators processed their findings, evidence of a systematic agenda aimed at silencing women who dared to disrupt the dominant order. The chamber symbolized not just the loss of life, but of burgeoning female autonomy stifled by oppression. Messalina's act of rebellion was informed by desperation, but fueled by the structured cruelty that would later prevail as ancient Rome unraveled. By 250 CE, Rome's society began to show signs of unparalleled decline. The pulsating energy that once blanketed the city faded. Census records revealed a startling narrative. The population dropped from 1.2 million in the first century to approximately 800,000 by 250 CE. Structural integrity of the empire eroded. Once bustling markets stood empty. Rich mosaics were lost beneath layers of neglect, and the mighty Colosseum witnessed fewer spectacles. By 400 CE, archaeological evidence would reveal a chilling truth. Entire districts of the city lay deserted. Roman currency lost its value, a significant reflection of economic decay. Once a beacon of trade and commerce, ports fell quiet, their ships now gathering dust while hunger gripped the heart of the populace. Military campaigns, once fueled by glory and expansion, reflected desperation as fewer soldiers could be enlisted or fed. The proud legacy of the empire began to fray like the tattered banners of its legions. Names that once echoed across the annals of history became but whispers among the living. Valeria Messalina's reckless chase for glory served to fuel this gradual collapse, which, compounded by her actions, became emblematic of a culture in decay. The consequences of her choices created ripples throughout Rome, intertwining with the decay that ensured by her reign. Her contest, the ambition born in the shadows, unwittingly carved a path to further disintegration and chaos, a harbinger of the empire's inevitable decline. The pattern is unmistakable. Systematic dehumanization, denial of autonomy, and state-level complicity in violence. Such echoes reverberate through history, evident in the bureaucratic machinery of the Nazi-Wannsee protocols in 1942, the Cambodian S-21 prison records from 1975 to 1975 to 1979, and the broadcasts during the Rwandan genocide of 1994. Each instance provides case studies in the tragic normalization of violence and exploitation cloaked beneath grand ambitions and official narratives. As the archaeological team continued to uncover Rome's bleeding history, the remnants of buried women became proxies for a larger conversation about power and legacy. The stories that lay beneath the stone served as stark reminders of the systematic maneuvers that shaped empires, a caution to those who seek power without accountability. If you found this exploration into history illuminating, consider subscribing to delve deeper into Rome's enthralling, yet tragic narrative, a story that reflects the perpetual tension between ambition, oppression, and the very fabric of civilization itself.